We're looking at TikTok. We may be banning TikTok. We may be doing some other things. There are a couple of options, but a lot of things are happening. So we'll see what happens. But we are looking at a lot of alternatives with respect to TikTok.
And there you have it. That is Donald Trump saying he is going to ban TikTok. And indeed, in the last year of his presidency, he did take steps. He signed an executive order to ban TikTok, and that prompted a major lawsuit between TikTok and Donald Trump. And today's episode, that's what we're going to talk about. You're going to become an expert in that lawsuit, an expert in TikTok, what the information they collect about us is, and why the federal government tried to block them. Hey, welcome back, folks. I love hearing from everyone. And over the past week, I heard from a lot of you. On our YouTube channel, we had something like 500 comments, and it was so much fun to read them. Even the mean ones, those were my favorite. Someone called me looks like a scammer. So as I put in the responses, us plaintiff lawyers love it when people call us a scammer or this guy's trying to extort money from people, right? It's almost a compliment to lawyers, you know? So speaking of, so today's topic, what happened here with this TikTok? Okay, it was a very, very interesting federal lawsuit, and we got two big players, right? We got TikTok, major corporation worth billions of dollars, and they're owned by another corporation that's worth billions of dollars, okay? They're owned by Chinese companies, okay? And, so we have TikTok. Then we have President Donald Trump, all right? So let me help the lead up into this, so to speak, right? So TikTok on its platforms, people put in their names, their emails, their IDs, their age, and then they obviously what videos they watch, the videos they upload. In fact, hang on, here at TikTok, the information, it was in the terms and services of TikTok. They would collect, registration name, age, language, profile information, like what other accounts people use, all the videos, the pictures, everything. Their PayPal accounts, for a lot of people, their phone numbers, their communication preferences, their correspondences with other TikTokers, right? And then TikTok also had, when people like went into a survey or some sort of challenge or their likes, their preferences, all that information was collected by TikTok, right? And it was agreed upon by the consumers that TikTok would keep that information. So the lead up into this was the following. So Donald Trump was getting concerned because TikTok is a Chinese company, right? And it was becoming obvious to him that a lot of times the Chinese government would collect information about Americans, right? And that potentially, even though it wasn't the Chinese government that owned TikTok, in China, there are very clear laws, according to the president, and it was not really disputed, right? That there's very clear laws that if the government of China wants, they could access that information rather easily from these corporations, right? So that all of this information that TikTok was gathering, right? I mean, keep in mind, some of it was fun information, like, how many times can somebody, what is that thing they do when they bounce and they have their butt bouncing? What is that called? These guys would know. Twerk. Is that right? Yeah, twerking, right? So obviously they collect that. But then, obviously there's a lot more information than how many times people twerk or the goofy dances and stuff. And the reason why I say that is because if you think about it, a lot of people think, come on, Donald Trump, it's just people dancing and people goofing off. But Donald Trump said, and, it was a lot more information. So his concern was that all of, so TikTok and the company that owns it, it's called ByteDance, and that's BYTE dance, okay? And they would have all of this information. Once again, this is, the people's age, their names, their passwords, what language they use, their email accounts, right? All the profile information that people put in there, photographs of themselves, PayPal accounts, tons and tons of all of this. Like they can kind of build a profile about each person basically from their account, right? So Donald Trump was concerned that one day the Chinese government would get a hold of all that, and then they would kind of have knowledge of how everyone acts and doesn't act and preferences and everything in all of the United States, right? Because there's like 100 million people using this TikTok, and every day they were getting like 400,000 new users or something crazy like that, right? Could have been a little more, right? So the concern was that China was going to get a hold of everyone's freaking knowledge in America, right? And then they could use that, I don't know, to have an uprising or to start a revolution or to, whatever it is, right? That was the concern. So what Donald Trump did in the year 2020, originally he said, the dates, okay, it was like, it was coming out like kind of mid 2020. He said, all right, I'll make a deal. The art of the deal, right? This is the deal. If TikTok can just be sold to an American company like Microsoft or Donald Trump Enterprises. No, just kidding. Okay. If TikTok could just be sold to an American company, then we'll be cool. Because if it's an American company, then it'll be a little tougher for China to get that information. I don't know, maybe they'll just have to like get a hacker to get it, right? But it'll be a little tougher because it won't be by law accessible by the Chinese government. So Donald Trump originally in mid-2020, he said if TikTok can sell to an American corporation, and TikTok was starting to look into that, maybe Microsoft, maybe Oracle, maybe some other big company, right? And then, and it was somewhat out of nowhere, right? In early August 2020, Donald Trump just signs an executive order, and that executive order basically banned TikTok. And I say basically because it kind of said, they have like 30 days to do this or 45 days to do that. And then we'll ban this part. Then we'll ban that part. Then we'll totally ban it. Okay. So he signs that executive order. Now, executive orders is law kind of in the sense that it's made by the president. So that's called executive. And the theory is that it's something that has to be done quick, something that's kind of important, something that has to be implemented fast, right? And we don't have time to go through the channels of Congress, so to speak, right? So, so he signs that kind of executive order, and that was in August in 2020. Then the federal government began implementing that by, like the Secretary of Commerce would make certain rules, like they'd go to Apple and other apps and say, oh, don't allow, TikTok to get this information. Don't allow them on your app store or whatever, So all of it was being implemented, right? And sure enough, then TikTok would be banned in the United States, right? Now, TikTok was very upset about this. Even the Chinese government was very upset about this, right? You can't ban a Chinese government social platform in America, okay? Which is kind of funny in a way because China bans Facebook and Instagram and some other US social media and kind of for the same freaking reasons, right? And then they're saying, hey, America shouldn't ban TikTok. Okay, forget that for a minute, all right? So it's not like they were a part of the lawsuit, but they were kind of, echoing this concern that TikTok is being banned in the United States, right? And all right, so Donald Trump bans them. Now there come Joe Samo and the federal lawsuit. And the federal lawsuit, this is a small part of it. The federal lawsuit was actually really exciting. And I love this is like big giants fighting, right? You got TikTok and they're owning, the company that owns them. All right. And then you got Donald Trump and the federal government, right? The United States federal government. And these two big shot giants are beating up on each other. Okay. Now, all right. So let's go over what happens in this lawsuit. Someone recommended that I say the word subscribe to the channel, go ahead and do it so you can watch the rest. Otherwise I'll just freeze. Just got you. Okay. Now, okay. Let's go over the lawsuit. So TikTok then sues Donald Trump in September 18, 2020. Now, I say September 18 because this is going to go fast, all right? because lawsuits usually, I have this funny joke. It's like lawsuits could drag on forever. And some important lawsuits, they could kind of, decisions could be made like right away. Okay. And then this is one of those right away ones. One sort of, the ones that don't get done right away are, like, neighbors suing each other or something. But when you got, TikTok and you got Donald Trump, the court paid attention, right? All right. So here we go. So TikTok then files this lawsuit. Now, this lawsuit claims that Donald Trump did not have the authority to ban TikTok in an executive order, okay? Because the law that Donald Trump was using to do this is a federal law called the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. And that was enacted in 1977. And the short version of that act is that Congress has passed laws indicating when a president can, use his emergency powers, so they've kind of like allowed, so to speak, like, okay, the president, because remember, it's like Congress and the president, they've had a, fight for power, right, for centuries, okay? And Congress is supposed to be the one that makes the laws, and the president is supposed to be one that just executes the laws, right? Now, a lot of times the president will say, oh, wow, well, what, if somebody attacks America or something, you want me to wait 8 months for Congress to get off vacation and make a law? No, I have to act right away, right? So then in 1977, right after the Vietnam War, Congress was starting to say, okay, well, let's itemize when that could happen, so to speak, right? So so this particular act, there'll be like separate acts. This particular one says, to deal with an unusual and extraordinary threat, which has its source in whole or substantial part outside the United States to the national security, foreign policy, or economy of the United States, if the president declares a national emergency with respect, okay? Then it says the president is empowered to regulate, direct, compel, prohibit, transfer of, dealing in, exercising any right, with any property in which a foreign country or a national thereof has any interest with respect to any property subject to jurisdiction of the United States. What does that mean? So in 1977, so Congress passed a law that said the president, if there's a national security, if there's a threat, and so the president can act and make sure that, like either property isn't transferred to a threatening government, or money isn't transferred, or some sort of assets, isn't transferred. Okay. So, the reasoning, and this isn't like Congress saying, oh, we're going to give the president more power. No, heck no. What they're saying is this is when the president is allowed to kind of like enact the law right away. Okay. So that then we can get out of vacation and go through a 8-month filibuster so we could like finally pass a law. Okay, we'll let the president pass a law if it's like an emergency to our national interest, right? So what President Trump did is he used that provision and he signs an executive order to ban TikTok. Again, it's not completely, it's like in little increments, but within a month, more or less, TikTok would be banned, right? So that's what he did. And he pulled that in August of 2020. All right. Now, in a month later, TikTok hires a big law firm. The beauty about all this is that a lot of lawyers made a lot of money out of this, okay? Because TikTok then hires a big law firm in DC to challenge this. So they file their lawsuit in September 18, 2020, like I said. This is where it gets a little bit like the legal stuff, the part that I really like, I really want to explain here. Most of you know, right? A lawsuit might take like 4 years to be adjudicated, all right? Then it might be appealed, and it might take forever to be adjudicated. So there is an avenue in the law where you can get kind of a fast resolution. And by fast, I mean the federal government, the federal court made a decision on September 27. So we're talking like 9 days. right? So to get a federal judge to make a federal decision that is binding in 9 days, how did TikTok do that, right? And they filed what's called a preliminary injunction. Okay, so you have in essence a lawsuit. The lawsuit is that TikTok wants to have the court strike as unconstitutional President Trump's executive order, right? That might take a long time. It might go to the freaking Supreme Court of the United States for the Supreme Court of the United States to say, oh, President Trump does have that authority or he does not have that authority. That might take 8 years, man. Okay. So that's the lawsuit. That's the lawsuit. All right. Now, in the interim, during that time, what TikTok wanted was what's called a preliminary injunction. What that means is they want some sort of order that today will, ban the ban, right? They want an order today that will stop President Trump's executive order until the outcome is done in the lawsuit, right? So that is one of their requests. Is they said that because the lawsuit itself is going to take a long time, we want to have a preliminary injunction against this. Now, this is the deal in a lot of other cases. Like I mentioned only a little bit, but even in like family law in a lot of states, if let's say there's a spouse that says the other spouse is being, abusive or a bad mom or dad or whatever to the kids, they could wish to get like a restraining order, right? Now, the restraining order can be a permanent, it could be 5 years, it could be whatever, right? But it will take a while to have a trial to determine if the restraining order is fair. And then, so what the court could issue upon request and good cause showing is a temporary restraining order, right? And that's what this is. This is a temporary restraining order, but when it's not like this physical kind of issues, they call it the preliminary injunction as opposed to a temporary restraining order. But it means the same thing, right? So the temporary restraining order will say, well, until the court adjudicates the full restraining order, this will be in place temporarily. So the same thing here. TikTok is saying we want to temporarily defunct, ban Donald Trump's executive order. So they're asking the federal judge to tell Donald Trump to shut up, right? And to void his executive order. That's a big deal, right? And then they got a decision in 9 days, man. All right. So they filed that complaint and relief. TikTok's position was that there is no emergency, okay, and that there is no national interest at stake type of thing, right? And then TikTok and because of that, TikTok's argued that President Trump overdid his authority, right? He acted beyond his authority. He enacted a law, the law being we're banning TikTok, and he could only do that if there's a threat to the national interest, and here there isn't that threat. And there is no threat because it's not like TikTok was engaged in any sort of, military things. It's not like TikTok was engaged in like taking money from the government or something, right? And so there was no real threat under this 1977 law, right? So because of that, then Donald Trump overdid his authority, right? So that was filed on September 18. Now, Donald Trump, by the way, it's kind of funny to say they're suing Donald Trump, all right? Because it is suing Donald Trump in what's called his official capacity as president. So Donald Trump is then represented by the lawyers for the federal government. And it's not, in essence, they're not suing Donald Trump. They're actually suing Donald Trump as president, meaning it's the federal government that has to defend this because Donald Trump is the federal government at the time, right? So it's not, so if there lawsuits against Donald Trump personally is if, he whatever, he's driving a car and he hits somebody, right? Then maybe they could sue him, or the New York Attorney General sued him. That was personal, meaning it was his own money and his own property and this and that, and he has to hire his own lawyers, right? So this one is he's being sued as the president. So it's really the federal government that's going to defend him, okay? And it's the federal government that TikTok is going after, which, by the way, this is crazy, right? TikTok is suing the federal government, and the only authority to direct the federal government is the federal court, which is the federal government, right? So that's why I always tell people it's going to be tough because you're suing the federal government in the federal government, right? So as I like to call it, there is a hometown base, home field advantage, right? So Donald Trump has home field advantage, all right? And this is going to be crazy because TikTok is asking the federal judge to completely ban Donald Trump's executive order, okay? All right, so on September 25, 1 week later, Donald Trump, his legal team files an opposition. Now, in their opposition, a very well-drafted argument, in the opposition, they go in detail in the sense that it's like, look, China's an enemy, right? And they're collecting information about the United States, and they're not a democratic government, and they have the authority to get information, to take over companies, at any time, right? And TikTok is collecting all of this information. Again, that information being people's accounts, people's private information, what people like, what people's videos, how people, their faces look like, all their videos, all that stuff, right? So they're collecting this mass data, TikTok, and China, the government of China, which is the, is not really an ally, right? Has access to all of that. And that's dangerous, okay? This is Donald Trump's lawyer saying it. And because that's so dangerous, and because the president can enact law, which is supposed to be by Congress, when there is a threat to the national safety. So as Donald Trump said over and over, right?
It can't be controlled for security reasons by China. Too big, too invasive, and it can't be. And here's the deal. I don't mind if, whether it's Microsoft or somebody else, a big company, a secure company, very, very American company, buy it.
Okay, thank you, Donald Trump. So that's what he's saying, right? Donald Trump said that TikTok presents a threat to our national security because they're collecting all this private information, and the government of China has it, and they could use it against the United States at any time, right? And China does the same thing by banning Facebook and Instagram, right? So all of that is in the response by the government, right? By Donald Trump. Then 2 days later, the judge issues a ruling. Okay, and you could hear that ruling once you hit the like button. Just kidding. You don't have to do that. Okay, so here we go. So the judge then issues a ruling on September 27. That's 2 days later. This is so okay. As lawyers, that's a big deal. All right. The judge agrees with TikTok. The federal judge agreed with TikTok. And here we go. Okay. So on September, so this is Judge Nichols, the United States District Judge in Washington, D.C. In his lengthy opinion, so he looks at TikTok's lawsuit. He looks at Donald Trump's opposition to the lawsuit. And then this judge this ruling only applies to the preliminary injunction, which is important because that's going to be the law until the case is decided. Okay, so it's not that TikTok wins the whole case; they win the preliminary injunction. Okay, and here we go. This is how they win. Now, for the law students there, for the lawyers there, you'll get a kick out of the kind of the theory here, right? To win the lawsuit, okay, you have to prove 4 things to win the preliminary injunction, all right? And you have to prove at the outset to the judge to get this preliminary judgment that you will likely win the whole lawsuit. That's 1, right? And then 2, you have to prove that you will be what's called irreparably harmed if you don't get the preliminary injunction. Okay, meaning that if we don't get this relief and then we have to wait till the outcome of the trial, there'll be harm that's done to us that we can't repair. Okay. And then 3, you have to prove, it's called the balance of interest, like our interest and their interest, like what's kind of the big deal. Like it's not going to hurt the defendant, Donald Trump, if we could have this executive order lifted. Okay. And then the 4th one is that it's best for the public, like for the people. All right. And to get the preliminary injunction, the plaintiff has to get all 4 of those, not one of those. Has to get all 4 of those. So they have to go 4, 4, 4. Whoa, 4, 4, 4, right? To get that preliminary injunction. And sure enough, TikTok won. Okay, so what the judge said is that, this likelihood of success, that first thing, first of the four prongs, is the judge said, I don't think Donald Trump had the authority, meaning all TikTok is gathering is a lot of personal information, right? Which is, I don't know, that's a lot of deal, right? But they're just gathering all that personal information. It's kind of like, yeah, but how is that going to be a national security risk, right? I mean, it would have to be, let me think. All of that information, the personal information and the user's data and all that jazz. Okay, so TikTok has it. Then the Chinese government has to want to get it, and then they have to get it. Then after the Chinese government gets all of that, then they're going to somehow use it against the national interest. So what are they going to do? Like figure out, all we got to do to, get an uprising in America is have, Justin Bieber like tattoo his butt. I mean, I don't know. They're going to use some sort of genius freaking Jedi tricks and figure out how they're going to create an uprising in the United States. I mean, the judge, now keep in mind, the judge doesn't say things like that. It's a lot more, professional than Joe Samo says it, right? But basically the judge says, I just don't see how this is that sort of, concern. And the judge goes on to say that, this is kind of just sharing information, and this is just kind of communications. In fact, the judge goes so far as to say TikTok is kind of like a news wire, people kind of disseminating information to each other. And it's just people speaking and people communicating and people dancing and, whatever, like at a football game or at a barbecue. And it could be like, it could be a protest. It could be anything, right? But the bottom line is that it's just information gathering. It's not people selling, ammunition. It's not people, sending military secrets or anything like that. It's not like planning a revolution. Nothing like that is going on. It's just kind of like people just communicating, right? This is what the judge is saying, okay? Not me. This is what the judge is saying. The crazy part is Donald Trump's lawyers went as far as to say that this is like espionage. They said that this could be like the Chinese government spying on everybody, right? The judge did not buy that, all right? The next order of business is this theory about the irreparable harm. TikTok said it's going to take us 5 years potentially, especially this is like a federal issue. This is the, separation of powers. This could take a long time to be adjudicated, right? It could be like 7 years. In internet terms, 7 years is obviously a lifetime. And by then, TikTok will lose to, I don't know, Instagram or Twitch or Bitch or Mitch or I don't know. There's like so many things out there, right? TikTok's going to lose everything in 7 years. So it'll be an irreparable harm if we don't get relief today. All right. And because the third prong, the balance of interest, because, here it is. Okay. So the third, the judge, over 424,000 new users each day. Wow, that's crazy. Okay. The judge says that the balance of interest, it's not going to be, it's going to kill TikTok if this preliminary injunction isn't issued, whereas the federal government will be just fine if it's not issued, or if it is issued, the federal government will be just fine. Okay. Then the last one, the public interest, the fourth prong is, he said, forget about TikTok, forget about the United States federal government, even for the public, the citizens at large, right? It is better for them to have TikTok than to not have TikTok, apparently, right? Because people are communicating. It's a fun avenue to communicate. People are disseminating information. People are expressing themselves. People could be, protesting. They could be posting art, whatever it is. And TikTok is obviously a venue that people like, right? So this federal judge says it would be in the public interest to keep that venue going as opposed to stopping it, right? The judge, for the foregoing reasons, plaintiff's motion for a preliminary injunction is granted. Now, I think this lawsuit, TikTok against Trump, is a big deal because it kind of challenges the president of the United States' authority to issue executive orders, meaning it challenges how, what kind of laws and what kind of decisions the president can make, right? And TikTok had a federal judge. I mean, think about it. A federal judge has the authority to strike down a ruling that the president enacted, right? That's good. I mean, that shows the president is not a dictator. I mean, a federal judge has more authority than the president in terms of like the federal judge being able to cancel Donald Trump's order. Like, that's a big deal. All right. Now, what happened to this lawsuit? Remember what I said. This is just a preliminary injunction. Ultimately, right, President Trump, his office term finished. And then President Biden came into office. Okay, I'm not going to get into it. Okay, that's just what happened. I'm not going to, right, wrong, whatever, election, whatever. No, so President Biden gets in office, and this lawsuit was ongoing. And then President Biden struck a deal with TikTok saying, how about I just dismiss this whole lawsuit? And we're good. And TikTok agreed. President Biden agreed. So ultimately, after TikTok won the preliminary injunction and everyone realized that it's not going anywhere, meaning that the courts are not going to agree that this was proper law, so President Biden, after he came in shortly thereafter, he struck a deal with TikTok, just dismissing this whole case. All right. I'm excited to know what you folks think. I know there's going to be a lot of opinions out there. And just like last week, I got hundreds of comments. I'd love to hear from all of you again. All right, folks. All right. Keep it up, and I'll see you next week.